Hi guys, Joanna speaking. I'm very happy to have you back on my channel. Today will be without long introduction because I have a lot to say and show you. So take a look at the new game from Viking Realms, Lords of Ragnarok, and see how to play it. If you want to see more details, I invite you soon to my unboxing and interview with the creator of Lords of Ragnarok, Adam Kwapiński. But now, here we go. Do you see the black hole in the middle of the board? Put an acquire black action while here, but not anyhow. Try to arrange them to match the names of the realms with their position on the map. I will back to this one later. Now lay out the 6 realm cards, one card at a time, in dedicated location on the map. Realms are independent areas, separated by the thicker white border from other regions. They are not invited, but you can make alliances with them by spending a rune with the appropriate symbol. Goddess Freya, or rather her monument, at the beginning of the game, just place the base in the appropriate place on the map. There are 3 of these large goddess statues in the game, and you will build them during the game. Now place 7 temple markers on the temple track. Later I will explain to you where and how to build them. Now prepare the runic forge by randomly placing 6 of their tokens on the black slots on the map. Each indicates the rune symbols you are about to add here by placing 1 rune with the same symbols for each forge. Now place a deck of combat cards for the players, within reach of all the players. You will also need a deck of monster attack cards, the event cards you are about to use, and the blessing cards. There are 3 types and they are related to the 3 gods. Place the rune tokens near to the board. Now let me introduce you to the monsters. The first one is Loki, although you fight it as the last monster when you kill 2 other monsters such as Grendel Troll or Fafnir. Place the monster boards and their miniatures next to the map. Where will they appear? For this you need a deck of event cards. Shuffle it and reveal a random 5 cards. These are the monsters that will appear in the game. Set aside their miniatures and their board. Now draw 1 event card. The number of cards will indicate where Loki will appear. Then place his miniature in that region on the map. Now take 1 event card from each monster you put down and, just like Loki, place the monster on the map. The number of the cards always indicates the region's number where the monsters will be placed. And this is how you place all the monsters that are involved in this game on the map. When starting the game, place 5 Ragnarok cards face up. Each card has a different conditions, like this one. 1 monument has been fully built. When a condition is met, turn over that card. And when 3 cards are face down, Ragnarok begins. Now add 1 runes with the same symbol of each forge. The map is divided into regions. There are smaller areas that are separated by dashed lines. There are also lands on the map that include several regions on the same color. There are 2 types of regions on the map. One with a temple symbol, on which temples can be built after activation, an action from the action wheel. The other one has a settlement symbol, which allow you to recruit armies there or increase their strength. The values in each region indicate the population, which is compared to strength of army or a hero when taking control of that region. The numbers next to the region's symbols are linked to the event cards and will indicate their monsters will appear at the beginning of the game. Surrounding the map is an area of sea regions, which are divided by blue borders. Take a look that 1 sea region is a large area adjacent to several regions on land. As the Drakkar sails around the map, it will change the concept of neighborhood. At the edge of the map, among the regions, there are 6 realms separated by a thick white line. These are territories independent of any player, neutral with which players can only make alliances. They do not attack these lands. Okay, let's go to player preparation. Choose a color and take 20 symbol markers and a player board. Yes, that's your Drakkar. After all, you are Viking, right? You need pads for your color, and here is a smaller version of your Drakkar. Place the 4 priests next to the board, but you cannot use them yet. Instead, place 6 of your army miniatures on the board in the appropriate slots. These are not units, but whole troops. You always start with their strength value set to 1, so make sure you mark them accordingly. On each board, you will find 3 attributes of a hero: authority, strength, and wisdom. In the prototype, the authority values is 1 underneath the marker, which is 2 in my case. This means that during recruitment, I change the strength value of the army I'm fielding. As you know, you start with level 1, but it can be up to 6 for each army. The second attribute, hero strength, determines the maximum strength of the region that the hero can take over. It is also the attribute that indicates the number of combat cards you draw at the beginning of a hunt. The third attribute, wisdom, determines the limit of combat cards and the number of runes you can hold at any given time. Let's swim for a moment. A special unit in the form of a mini Drakkar only moves through the sea regions that surround the either board. Drakkars are some kind of bridges for armies and heroes. In other words, regions connected by a Drakkar are considered adjacent. When moving a Drakkar, it can travel to regions. The borders of the sea regions are marked with a blue line, but I know that this will be improved to make them more clearly. And this Drakkar, after crossing the border, can stop, like in my situation, or continue travel to the border of the next region. Now two words about priests. When you acquire a priest for your pool, you place him on the Drakkar, and from here you can send him to the monuments during the prayer action to gain bonuses. You do not place the priest on the board, but on the chosen monuments as long as there is a free prayer space. And you don't have to have your marker in the regions where the monuments is, or even your hero to send the priest there. Now I will turn to the player and heroes. In the game we have Lagertha, as you can see, hot woman, Ragnar. Wait until I will show you his miniature. The new fashion trend that is Aslak, and the only hero who knows how to play Snorri and Beowulf. You get 2 tales and choose 1 hero per game. Each will provide a different unique ability. Okay, I'm a girl, so I choose the fiery woman, Lagertha. I place my hero tale on the Drakkar, and from now I play on this character. I am Lagertha. Well, speaking of characters, I have to choose a miniature. I must admit that I was very tempted by Ragnar because his miniature looks just insane. But I've chosen Lagertha, so I'm plugging her miniatures into a pad of my color. You know, I think I should choose red for her. Never mind. So now that leaves me to choose an origin. Each player gets 2 tales like this and chooses 1, just like in choosing a character. This choice is also difficult because each tale gives something cool. I tempted to start with 1 army of strength 2 instead of 1, but I prefer to control the monster at the beginning of the game. Okay guys, what kind of monster do you think I will choose? I'm betting on dragon. Fafnir will look beautiful with my green pot. It will remain under my control until someone kills him, even myself. Here we go! Winds in the sail, and each player sets his Drakkar by the chosen region, where he will place his hero, but the hero will be with 2 armies. And here I will tell you right away how to take control in a region. The population of that region is 2. The strength of the player's army is 2. When the army strength is the same as it's now or higher, you have control of the region. So you can put here your marker. Each player draws 1 combat card. After all, we are not going on vacation but to fight. And for this you need to prepare properly. We set the attribute markers on the first slots of the 3 tracks, and it's still worth checking all the initial setting and abilities, for example from the origin. A red player starts by controlling one chosen realm, so he places his marker on one of them. A player's turn begins with a prayer, and you can do two things. If you have a priest on a Drakkar, you can send him to any of the monuments. And depending on his level, your priest gets different bonuses. And depending on his level, your priest gets different bonuses. So in the case of Thor, this statue is fully built. You can draw 3 combat cards from the deck on the board and increase your strength attribute by 1 level by moving your marker on the Drakkar accordingly. The second thing you can during a pray action, it is take a rune. If your hero is a region with a forge and there is a rune, you can take it. And here you have to remember about the limits of runes, which is determined by the level of wisdom, right? Next is the hero action, who can heal one of his wounds. Then you can turn the attribute marker to the black side, and now again it indicates the value of the attributes it covers, not reduces to level 2 when it lay on the wound side. But if not healing, the hero can move or move his Drakkar. So player choose one of that 3 options. The hero can move into 2 regions as part of his movement. When he enters a region, pays no attention to controllers of that regions, the units present there, or even another hero. When you move your Drakkar, you also move it 2 regions, regardless of whenever other players' ships are with it. Now, runic actions. 1 per turn, each player can perform 7 rune actions for which they will use different sets of runes. First, he can spend 1 rune to take control of a monster. If you have a hero in the same region as a monster, you can spend 1 rune with the same symbol that appears on that monster's board to take control of it. I place the rune with the required symbol on the base of the monster and then mark it by putting its miniature in a part of my color. Once I take control of a monster, other players cannot take that control from me again unless they kill that monster. You can also spend 1 rune with a given symbol to make an alliance with a realm. You must spend a rune with the same symbol as the one you see on the realm card. Additionally, you must have a hero in that region. You mark the alliance by placing a marker on the realm card. This will provide you with a bonus from this card when you activate this area through the action while. You will see how it works in a moment. How you can spend 2 runes? First, runes must have different symbols. You never spend the same rune for the same action. So, by spending 2 different runes, you can activate your army present on the map. What does activation mean? It means one of 2 things. Either you increase the level of your army by 1 value, or you move your army, in which case you move it 1 space, 1 region away from where it is. By spending 2 different runes, you can also activate one of your monsters. This allows you to move it by 1 space to neighborhooding region. If another player's army is in that region, the monsters triggers a stop, which reduces the strength of one of the opponent's army by 1 level. By spending 2 different runes, you also have the opportunity to draw as many battle cards as you currently have a level of the wisdom attribute. In my example, wisdom attribute is 3, so I draw 3 battle cards into my hand. What if I spend 3 different runes? Even better things. I can either increase any of my attributes by 1 level, or I can recruit my army without playing action from the while. But remember, when fielding a miniature from a Drakkar, its strength is to be equal to its current authority level. It's very important. As part of step 4, each player performs an activation of their armies. This consists of 2 things. Either it is a move to an adjacent region by 1 space, or, without moving, you can raise the strength of your army by 1, but provided it is in a region you control with a settlement symbol. In the final 5 steps of a player's turn, each player performs a special action, that is, the selected an action on the action while, and mark it by placing a marker of their color there. Now it's important to know that if you are the first player to select an action, I mean place a marker on a space where no other players have markers, then you activate the assigned realm. This means that all players who have made an alliance with this realm, including yourself, benefit from the menus written at the bottom of the realm cards. So in this case, green and red player draw 1 combat card each. Another important thing. You cannot place your marker on a space that you have already chosen. However, you can choose an action that another player has already taken. Then you place your marker on his marker. This doesn't activate the realm from that part of the action circle, but the player whose marker you have covered benefits from the bonus and draw 1 rune with the chosen symbol. So, pretty cool. If you choose the monument building action, you don't place a marker on the circle, and as a result of this action, all players' markers that are there are cleared. And I will show you in more detail how the construction of a monument works later in this video. Now I will show you all the actions on the action wheel. So, if you trigger recruitment, it will allow you to send your army from the player board on the map. You can either move an army miniature to a region adjacent to your Drakkar, or recruit an army to a region with a settlement that you control. The Alfheim realms is activated, and any player with an alliance with benefits from the bonus, and any player with an alliance will benefit from the bonus if you place a marker on the wheel first. By choosing the mobilization action, you will activate the realm of Vanaheim as long as your marker is first on that field. Players who have alliances with this realm benefits from the bonus. And the mobilization itself allows you to move your armies around the map. You can move armies by 1 space to adjacent regions, or if you have an army on a space with a settlement under your control, you can increase its strength by 1 level, changing the level of the miniatures accordingly. The next action on the action wheel is preparation. Also, if you place a marker here, first you activate the realm connected to this action, and in this case it's Nilfheim. The action prepare allows you to perform an action twice. You can do the same action twice. You can choose to heal 1 wound, draw 1 combat card, or take 1 rune of your choice, or increase the strength of your army that is located in the region with a settlement under your control. The next action you can choose from the action wheel. It is build a temple and get a priest. You can take this action only if you control a region with a temple symbol. This action can activate alliances with related kingdoms, giving players who have it a bonus. But most importantly, it allows you to reach for the temple marker from the temple track and place it in your region with the temple symbol. If you reveal the 3rd or 6th space on the temple track, you trigger the draft of blessing cards. In turn, you draw 1 of your priests as an action, placing it on the Drakkar board. So how does the draft works? All the blessing cards must be shuffled to form a single deck. The players who started the draft then draws as many cards from this deck as there are players plus 1 and starts the draft with himself. He chooses 1 blessing card, whose effect lasts until the end of the game, and passes the rest of the cards to the players sitting next to him. The draft continues until each player chooses 1 blessing card. Selecting another action on the wheel allows you to move a monster you control or to hunt a monster, including yourself. So, if your hero is in the same region as a monster, you can hunt it by activating this action from the wheel. On the other hand, if you are already killed 2 monsters, regardless of which one, you can hunt Loki and have a final battle with him. I know, now you already want to know how to hunt monsters in this game. Relaxed, I will show you that in a moment. Now the last action from the action wheel, it is Usurpation, an action for the lazy. It will allow you to take control of the region your hero is currently in, but this will be done without fighting. This applies to neutral regions or regions under another player's control. In the case of neutral regions, you simply compare the population of that regions to the strength of the hero. If another player's army is present in the region, you compare its strength to your hero's strength, and when it is equal or greater, you can take control of the region. Then the opposing army must retreat to an adjacent region as long as that player has control of it. If this is not possible, the opposing army returns to the Drakkar. The usurper recruits one of his army by placing its miniature in the region. Performing this action activates the associate realms if, of course, the players place his marker on his space first. And of course, players with an alliance benefit from the bonus of this realm. Let's build something. The player who decides to build a monument chooses one of the 3 statues and adds another level to it. Each monster consists of 4 levels. Next, you need to check requirements on the Ragnarok cards. If any have been fulfilled, such as this, turn over such card to signify it. When 3 Ragnarok cards from among 5 cards are turned over, Ragnarok begins. This means that all players, including the player who triggered the end of the world, take their last turn and the game ends. The player with the advantage in regions at the action wheel wins it. Now each player removes their priest from the prayer place from all the monuments on the board. We also clear the action circle, just player takes their action markers from here. This is also the moment to refresh the artifact cards. Artifacts are gained by killing a monster or completing the construction of a monument. A player who has built a monument can take 1 priest for each temple he controls on his Drakkar board. As a reward, he can also take runes from the regions he controls with a rune forge. Here, remember to check the rune limits. If you have an access, you must discard 1 to the runes. And the next step is to draw 1 event card and process its effect. Now something you have been waiting for, the monster hunt. The red hero is in the same region as Fafnir, so he hunts. The dragon is controlled by the green player, so he will be the one to play the monster's attack cards. When the monster is neutral, the player to left of the attacker takes control of it in combat. The hunt is played in cycles of rounds, played alternately, starting with the monster. The player controlling the monster draw a shuffled deck of monster attack cards. If the first round is played, he draws 2 cards from his deck. In subsequent rounds, he will draw as many cards as indicated by the last card played. The attacking player will use the deck of combat cards. He will draw as many cards as indicated by the wisdom value of his hero. So, as I mentioned before, the monster starts by deciding which of the cards he will leave for the fight, the other card he discards. What is important, when the monster's attack cards run out, the hunt ends with the hunter's defeat. Therefore, the monster may want to discard attack cards quickly. On the monster attack card on the left in red, we have attack strength. Next to it in yellow, it is weakness value of that monster. Both are important, and now see how it works when hunting. So the monster has played a card with an attack strength of 3. Now the hero must defend himself by placing cards with strength equal or greater than the monster's strength, or decide to play a shield card which has a strength of 1 but defends the player from the monster's attack. I play a shield. Its effect protects me from an attack card, but does not work on a special attack from a monster board. If the hero fails to defend himself, then the effect from the attack card played by the monster, which is described at the bottom of the card, must be considered. The bow effect deals as many wounds to the hero as he has uninjured attribute markers on his board. So, ouch, it will be very painful. After all, the player can take 3 wounds. At the 4th, the hunt ends with his loss. But I played a shield and defended the monster's attack. What next? Now we check the weakness value of the card played by the monster and compare it with the sum of the strength of all cards played by the hero and with his wisdom value. So in my example, it's 1 plus wisdom level of 4, that gives me 5, which is less than the weakness. So the player can only draw one combat card. If he got a value greater or equal to the monster's weakness, he could draw 2 combat cards. But now the attacking hero wounds the monster. How much and what kind of damage he has to inflict is shown by the symbol bar at the bottom of each monster board. So the player must discard cards from his hand that match the symbols shown on the monster board. He can discard more than one card at a time, but the symbols must match those on the monster board. For each matching symbol, he places his marker on the monster board, covering the corresponding slots and thus wounding the monster. The cards played are discarded. When hunting, be sure to consider the effect on the top of the card that affect the hunt. For example, Arc allows me to draw a combat card from the deck and discard one from my hand. If the attacking player has now covered all wounds on the monster board, we continue the hunt and go to the monster round again. But now the monster will draw as many attack cards as indicated by the cards it played earlier, which is in my example is 3 monster attack cards. From these cards he chooses one, discard the others, and we process the monster attack the same way as I showed before. But when the hunting player has covered all monster wounds with his markers, he finished the hunt successfully. He gets all the bonuses visible on the covered wound slots, for example, army strength increase or rune selection. As a reward, it's gained the artifact card assigned to that monster. If you already have 2 killed monsters on your account, you can hunt for Loki. The difference is that you must have 2 pair symbols on your battle cards. So you discard 2 cards with matching symbols at the same time. And this will allow you to wound Loki. And when you manage to defeat Loki, the game immediately ends with your victory. How does the battle between players proceed? After any action, when there are at least 2 enemy armies in one region, the battle between them starts. When there are more armies, the active player decides the order of battle. The players involved in the battle both use combat cards, playing them alternately. The defeating player starts. See this for an example. The defender plays a card of Strength 2. During the battle we use the effects from the combat card described at the bottom of the card. The opponent can either pass or play a combat card. He plays a combat card and its strength value is 5, and the effect from this card shown at the bottom of the card should be considered too. On some card, as you can see, there are skull symbols that affect army losses, but this is considered after the battle is over. Now it is defender's turn again, so he passes or plays a card. The attacking player passes and cannot play any more cards. The defender does not add any more cards, so the battle can be resolved. Now we compare the strength of both players. To do this, you add up the strength of the army in the region where the battle is taking place with the strength of all the battle cards played. In the case of green player, his army strength is 4 plus 5 of the strength of the cards, so total of 9. Of course, you have to take into account any reinforcement for the effects of the battle cards you played. Remember that you can use the effects from the blessing and artifacts cards. They can be useful. So the attack strength of the red player's cards is 5, which must be added to the strength of his army in this region, which is 7, making a total of 12. He wins this battle. In case of tie, the defending player always wins. Now consider the skull symbols of the cards of each side of the conflict. We reduce the strength of the opposing army by 1 for each skull symbols of the combat cards played. This applies to each miniature that took part in the battle. If this would reduce the strength of the army by less than 1, the miniature returns to the player's board. If there are any defender army left in a region, that player must withdraw them an adjacent region if they control it. If not, the army miniatures return to the player's board. If the attacker army remains in the region where the battle took place and that region is under the opponent's control, change the action marker to the winner's color. If the battle is a neutral region after the battle has been resolved, compare the population value to the army strength. When is equal or greater, the player takes control of such region. Finally, the conditions of ending the game. There are 4. When a player has taken control of all regions in 3 lands, immediately the game ends and that player wins. If a player has defeated 2 monsters and managed to defeat Loki, he wins the game immediately. A player who has 5 regions with built temples under his control, at the time of the 5 temples construction, ends the game with his victory. The last condition, when the conditions of 3 cards have been met and Ragnarok begins. Players have 1 last turn, after which it is checked which player has gained control of more regions around the action circle. In case of tie, as in my situation the red and green player, the players with control more regions with settlements wins. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you guys for your attention. If you want to hear in more detail about new ideas and changes in the new version of this game compared to Lords of Hellas, I invite you to my conversation with the author Adam Kwapiński and publisher Marcin Świerkot, which will soon appear in the channel. And if you like what you have seen and heard, I will be glad if you leave a like and comments, and of course join to my subscribers. So appreciate my work. But now see you soon in next video, guys. Take care of yourself and bye bye.